The state has decided to consider me state enemy number one, as it was written a headline in a newspaper, and that for somebody who does nothing but trying to protect animals is quite a strange sort of achievement. And I would like to speak a bit about how this came about and then tell you what exactly happened and maybe open it to a discussion as what we think about it, because I think there are issues to talk about on this matter. When we started out, at least when I started out anyway, in the 80s doing animal issues, we were a colorful bunch of people who actually had no particular idea what we wanted to achieve. We just had this very strong feeling that for animals there's something very wrong in society and we need to do something about it. Our main idea was to get this into the open, to get society to talk about the animal issue. We did not have the self-esteem to say we want that change now. We didn't have that self-esteem, we were too scared. We thought we are a bit weird because we are just a few people and everybody else seems to think it's okay what is happening. We were vegetarian and then vegan, and we thought everybody is not, so we are weird, so we felt so small and we didn't think we could change anything. But we did do a lot of actions, but those actions were sporadic, i.e. once a month maybe, and they were meant to highlight the issue of animal suffering. To do nothing but getting people to say, hey, there is a problem with animals. There are people who consider it a problem. There is a problem, think about it. Secret Service in Austria started to have a look on us and started to register what we were doing. Indeed, in 2005, there was a law that says you can see the headlines of whatever the Secret Service is keeping files on you. And so I applied for this. In January 2006 I got it, and indeed it says in there, it started with 1998, and every meeting I was, every demo I was, every street fair I was, it was registered by the Secret Service. They started to go around, watch people, write down who is on what demo and what is happening here. And eventually in 2004, we succeeded with our biggest success yet. It's the ban on keeping laying hens in cages, which will take effect from the 1st January this year, so in about 13 days. And that was a hard-fought battle. It was for 2 years, very confrontational. There were 3 elections, 2 provincial elections, one in Carinthia and one in Salzburg, and then there was a presidential election. And during these elections, we did a lot of activity against those in government who wouldn't allow the ban on the cage of laying hens. And this was very confrontational because, for example, during these elections, we went around with a rally bus and we said, don't vote Conservative because they don't want to ban the battery farm. We went to election rallies of the Conservatives and stood outside and said, if you vote for them with a big banner, then you vote laying hen battery cages. And the climax of this was in Carinthia when, the day before the election, it was the last election rally of the Conservatives, and on the next square there was our rally, anti-Conservative. And I stood on this platform and said, don't vote Conservative because you vote hens into the cage. And the head of the Conservative Party stepped down from his platform, walked across to our square, went onto my platform and punched me in the face. I still have here a scar of him hitting me. So angry he was, so angry. And you can imagine a party in government getting so angry is no good news. We eventually got the ban because they lost all the 3 elections, and at the same time we won very, very strong enemies. So what are confrontational campaigns? The confrontational campaigns, it sounds very sinister, but I think it is something that is vital and important, and and the classic democratic process. For the beginning, to start a confrontational campaign, you are, firstly, before you start it, you're talking with the public on the issue and you try to convince them. And if they're all convinced, or the majority is convinced, or at least there is no electoral majority against it, then you start a confrontational campaign. And that was the case with the laying hens, because when we did an opinion poll, a professional opinion poll, 86% of people said they're in favor of a ban. So this is when we started the campaign. So before you start the confrontational campaign, you have a majority behind you. And you would have thought, in a democracy, if the majority is behind you, what else is there to do? This is finished. The majority is behind you, it must change. But that is not how politics work. It doesn't change by itself. Politics works so that things only change if there is a political conflict, because those in power, they don't care either way. But they say, if there is trouble, we must do something about it. If there's no trouble, we will be re-elected. If there is trouble, we must do something about it. There is a problem to be solved, but that's only if there's trouble. So with the confrontational campaign, the idea is to cause trouble, and then the politicians look, and then it's a matter of you causing more trouble than your political enemy. If you cause more trouble, they will do what you think, and if you cause less, then your opponent, then they won't. So this is sort of the political conflict that a confrontational campaign actually seeks. To run this campaign, you need a lot of campaign materials. And how do you get campaign materials? For example, with this battery cage ban campaign, you need obviously film footage from battery farms. How do you get that? You must go in there. And it's not legal to do this. So a confrontational campaign from the start is not exactly legal. It is slightly illegal in some sense. You need this footage, otherwise you can't inform the public. But you can't get it legally, so there is, yes, some amount of illegality. But I think it is democratically justified because it's in the name or in the spirit of the majority of people. They want to be informed and they have a right to be informed. And the only way to inform them is that you go in there, you film it, and you show it to the people. You don't do any damage, you don't destroy anything, but you need to get the footage of what it is about to the people. Then, in the confrontational campaign, you always have an enemy, a target, those that are sort of stopping it. And before you have a confrontational campaign, again, you need to negotiate. You need to speak with people and see, why can't you sort of follow the wish of the majority? And then there will be this sort of, your opponent who has interests in keeping animals in cages, for example. And these will influence the government and will have spokespeople within the government. And these will turn out who they are during negotiations, and then you have your political enemy. And from then onwards, you start deliberately escalating the conflict. You try to show the public that there is somebody in the way of the majority wish. And in order to do that, you need to raise the public awareness. And for that, you do actions, so-called direct actions. And they might involve civil disobedience, and they might involve any kind of non-violent, peaceful direct actions, but maybe, again, overstepping the law.